Geek Myths, a novel about life, love, and the pursuit of sonic screwdrivers. Available in paperback and Kindle edition from Amazon.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. This time talking about resolution of the Daleks. No, it's just called resolution. As well you know. No, I do know that you know this already. Now, this is not my first attempt at recording this podcast. I did get sidetracked. Bear with me and forgive me. It was New Year. Obviously, I'm not the man I once was. I didn't go out drinking or anything like that. But you know what? Trying desperately to hang on to a new job kinda took priority. Oh, before I continue, can I just ask you a quick question? And I do require you to email in or tweet me at Tin Dog Podcast, all one word, just to tell me if I should do this or not. You see, I was looking at New Year's resolutions and I was also reading my writer's magazine. And one of them was telling me how to go about releasing an audiobook. Now, would anybody be interested, even remotely, in the Geek Myths, Tales from the Counterculture, being available as an audiobook? It's a lot of work to put into something that may or may not be, well, of any interest to anyone. So if you would like it, or even if you would be interested in it, please feel free to message me. You could always email me as well, tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. But that's not important. What is important, however, is that we are here to discuss, chat, or even moan about the only Doctor Who that will be out in 2019. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year. So, it's now 2019, and this is going to be a bit of a drought year. Yes, we've got nice things lying around. I have my review copy of Scratchman here, written by a certain Mr. Goss. No, Tom Baker, definitely. Not ghost written at all by anyone, or indeed in partnership with, or anything like that. You know, his books take up a good, I'd say, foot of my entire book collection that's on display. And yet his name appears very small. I'm rambling, and it just means I'm continuing a long tradition that I've held with the Tin Dog podcast for all these years. Can you imagine we're almost 830 episodes in? Good Lord, that's a lot of podcasting for you to put up with. Right, enough rambling. Let's talk about the DIY Daleks. The world's worst cosplay Daleks. No. Let's talk about Chekhov's microwave oven. Ping! No. Let's talk about Doctor Who. Yes, let's. What was missing from this story? Well, a few things, but primarily for me it was the opening credits. Now, a cold opening is one thing. Yes, you can open nicely and go into it. But you know what? We kind of like the new opening music. We like the title sequence. We like where it is, how it works. We like people's guest star names coming up. We didn't really mind the dodgy voiceover at the beginning. But was it cut for timing? I don't like to think of that. What we need is the titles put back in, please. We like them. I like it being a cold opening. That I can totally live with. I just don't like the title sequences missing. Yes, I know that this story parallels rather nicely the very first story of the Whittaker Doctor's reign. You've got someone stranded on Earth, building things for themselves, getting a new mode of transport, going back to their own old ways. Yes, I get all that. It's a lovely parallel. But the thing that was missing from the very first episode was the opening titles. And we haven't got them at all here either. Naughty BBC. Sort that out. Don't do it again. You've been told. Yeah? Now I've got pages, well, an entire page of notes done in different coloured pens on a rather nice green background. Yes, I did the dyslexia test, and bizarrely, if things are written on a green background for me, well, It's just a lot less strain on my eyes and the words stop dancing around. Well, not as much, let's put it that way. So, where do I start? Well, the handwriting's all over the place. The one thing that I would ask for is for somebody out there who's very good at editing. What am I saying? I used to be very good at editing. Leave it there. Is for someone else who's good at editing is to take either the sequence from Flashdance where she's doing some welding and then connect it with building your own Dalek and release that on YouTube, or mash up a scene from the A-Team where they all disappear into a barn and do lots of welding and then the Dalek comes out. Either of those would make me very happy. That's a bit of homework for you. You could, if you want, combine that with the very first story of Doctor Who from this series and have the whole building, welding yourself a little sonic screwdriver thing and so on. Why hasn't anybody else produced the sonic screwdriver that I think they should have had? Oh, I'm sorry, I've banged on about this too much. See lots of other episodes of this podcast for that. So, what's the overriding memory of me watching this story? It's not the new Dalek, it's not the Brexit gags, it's not any of that, which I'm sure I'll cover in a moment. No, it's when my wife was watching it with me. On the 2nd of January. Yes, I know, the 2nd of January. That's what happens when you get old. The 2nd of January. Oh, I'm a bad Doctor Who fan. It's when she took the Sky remote and paused it at the beginning and then paused it a little bit further in. Now, when she paused it the second time, and I'll get back to why she paused it the first time. When she paused it the second time, she went, "That's ridiculous." And I said, "What?" She said, "Watch it back." So I rewound the scene where the police officer is attacked and then the camera pulls back and then the woman who's been controlled by the Dalek drives off into the distance and leaves the crumpled remains of the police officer. She said, "Look there." I went, "What?" "It's the shoes." She's taken the shoes off the other person. Why would you remove the shoes? The chances are they're not going to fit. And it apparently is something that happens in TV drama a lot. People have their shoes taken when they're stealing somebody's uniform. Now, it would have been ideal for it not to have been the case where she removes the person's shoes. I mean, the Dalek can feel everything that's going on. So the Dalek's, wanting her to wear shoes that don't fit? Apparently it happens all the time in dramas. And it's the sort of thing that needs to be, let's put a stop to it now. Let's put a stop to people stealing shoes, unless it becomes an actual plot point where somebody goes, "Oh, you're a police officer. Yeah, what's with the shoes?" "Yeah," and then they see their old shoes because they do fit. It's annoying, and it sort of lost her. But it wasn't as bad as the thing that lost her at the beginning. Yes, the ancient creature that, doesn't get named until later on, and I'll get onto a rant about that in a minute. And that creature is torn into 3 pieces and then sent to different parts of the world. And the one that's sent to Britain, because you don't actually know what the battle is, well, you kind of do. It's the Battle of Hope. Anyway, the British person gets killed. The robbers run over and don't take the package in his arms. Now, if there'd been a bit of toing and froing and hanging on to the package that the actors could have done, that would have been fine. But they didn't. They run up, perhaps they were after his horse, and that's why they stole it, but that wasn't particularly clear. It's as if someone was mugged for their wallet and then left holding their wallet. Does that make sense? This irritated her even more. I lost her in the first 10 seconds of the story, and bless her for getting through the rest of it, because it just irritated the hell out of her. Not as much as the shoes. The shoes was just wrong. And you know what? She gets my vote on that one. So, I've rambled about shoes when what I should have been talking about was how good a Dalek story was. As I want to say that, you know what? The Dalek collared mutant thing on the wall, well, it was so different from the other Dalek collared mutant things that we've seen in the past that I actually thought it was a whole new race. I was still labouring under the misapprehension that we weren't going to get a Dalek story. See, I hadn't experienced Twitter, the random chat, and everybody had seen talking about, "Oh, it's the Daleks coming," and somebody said it's the ancient aliens. I'm thinking, yeah, but you know what? Chibnall told us that there were going to be no creatures in this series, and that's what we're going to get. Yes, I would have loved the Daleks to come back, but, Mr. Briggs he told us that he wasn't going to be hired at all for any point, and so on. I fell for the marketing. We weren't going to get a Dalek story, we weren't going to get a story with any of the old creatures, and that's fine. Yes, there are parallels with this and the original Dalek story from 2005. You know, the original Dalek story. Not like the original Dalek story, because that would be in the 60s. It is implied that this Dalek story happens sort of about the same time as the 1963 Dalek story, or perhaps if you know what? If you're interested in Dalek history, and God help you if you are, go back and read or locate or source from somewhere the Dalek Chronicles, the comic strip, which implies a different parallel Dalek story. Now, the Dalek does recognise the Doctor, which means that this is a Dalek from a time stream with Genesis of the Daleks in, at least. But it would have been beautiful if this Dalek had left Skaro as just a stand mutant which crawled into the shells that were left over after Genesis, and they didn't know who the Doctor was. I was expecting that. To be fair, I was also expecting a slightly different ending. I was expecting a whole Remembrance of the Daleks style ending at the very end, where the Doctor takes the lone Dalek to space to meet the fleet, and the fleet is completely destroyed and floating in space, and this Dalek is left utterly alone. But unlike the Rob Shearman Dalek, it doesn't get all despairy and doesn't go, "Oh, I've touched Rose, I feel much better about myself." No, this one then just becomes violent and decides to rebuild the Daleks. You know, that kind of thing. That would have been nice. So, I thought the Dalek had escaped the underground lair by climbing inside her bag, not climbing up the side of somebody's back and laying themselves flat and squishy. Do you also want... Look, when you were watching it, did you think the same as me? The creature's on her back, it's controlling her, and then it sits down to access the internet on the machine, which I did like. Everything was just the machine. It's good. So, the Dalek mutant's on her back, and then she sits down. I would have loved a little squealy, squelchy noise as she sat. You know what? She could have killed it just by leaning back. That would have made me just laugh and guffaw. Like, "I am the ultimate creature. I will kill you all. Oh, I'll just sit down. Oh, I've killed you there by squishing you against the back of this chair. That's how scary you are." How did the original people manage to even kill the Dalek? Oh, here's a question. You've got your illustrated book, The History of the Battle, and there is quite clearly an illustration of an actual Dalek being set on fire. How does that work? When was the drawing made? What was the reference material? If they'd just looked in the book in the first place, the Doctor would have gone, "Dalek, Dalek," in the book. "Oh, I know what we're dealing with. Let's sort this out." Also, the Dalek shoots the speed cameras constantly, so no one can follow it. Just follow the broken speed cameras. There's a lot of little niggly things that you just kind of want to let go, and I'm willing to let them go. But the thing that I find intriguing is that nobody else, no podcasts, no reviewers, no one is fixated on MDZ. Not demilitarized, not DMZ or MDZ. Now, I forgot the name of the pseudo-Trump character, but do you think that this guy experienced giant spiders and decided to set up his own? He's buying up a lot of alien technology. These are the seeds that are being planted for the next season. It's exactly the same. I mean, exactly the same as a storyline that's currently running in the unit boxed sets from Big Finish. It's not even similar. It's precisely the same as one of these storylines. I can live with that. It's a perfectly good storyline. Oh, right. Let's deal with the Brexit-shaped elephant in the room. You all know where my politics lies. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter how much I rant and rave. I asked as many of you as you could back in the day to vote, and I'm sure some of you might have. Look, it's fine. I need to let it go. I believe in democracy. Sadly, I also means I have to put up and shut up when other people just get it wrong. Okay? I need to move on. I can't, but I need to move on. I'm telling myself this, not you. It's awful and it makes me feel sick to my stomach what's happening to this country. And people discussed when Brexit vote first came out. Oh, Doctor Who needs to deal with this. Yes, and then there was a whole Peladon gag thing going on. It was hilarious. The third Peladon story where they all discussed leaving the economic union and all that business. I get it. Oh, it was hilarious. But the minute that there's a storyline where UNIT gets closed down, well, people start kicking off. People start making a fuss. And it was interesting to hear the podcasts from around the world absolutely just go, oh yeah, it was a throwaway remark. And yet, on certain websites in the UK, the newspapers picked up on this. Oh, Doctor Who shouldn't be doing this. We've had a load of that nonsense. I'm sick of that. Doctor Who is its own creature. It can do whatever it wants. Oh, it's too politically correct. What, by politically correct, do you just mean being nice to each other? That's the sort of thing Doctor Who's been about since 1963. And so on. That's why we're fans, you absolute pen-pushing idiots. Not that people in newspapers push pens anymore, but you understand what I mean. Everyone's just on the quest for making clickbait. They just want to poke you enough so that you click on their websites and go there. I'm so sorry. I'm ranting and I don't even know what I'm ranting about anymore. I've probably lost 1,000 more listeners. So, UNIT may or may not have been closed down. You know they haven't been. But let's look at Doctor Who history. The Doctor actually says after she gets off the phone, oh, we're on our own. What? Right. UNIT is an international organisation, covers the entire planet, so you couldn't have got someone in from somewhere else. Leave it. Right, so that's what you've got. You've got, it was the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. The only reason it's not called that on TV is just to, avoid some legal ramifications. It isn't a British thing. But I'll tell you what, if you want UNIT post-Brexit, it already exists. It's called Torchwood. Torchwood is the post-Brexit unit. And in a Brexit universe, we're going to have Torchwood brought back to Doctor Who. That's messed with your heads, hasn't it? It really has. Why the Doctor doesn't mention it is beyond me. Why the Doctor doesn't go, well, we could phone somebody in Cardiff, but they might not be here on time. Or the phone's engaged or something like that. The whole of the last series has been littered with old remarks, old twisty things that remind us of the old show. Littered just so that you go, oh yeah, this is still Doctor Who, isn't it? Remember your past. Now, I know there was too much remembering of your past in the past, but I need these things because it was so obvious. I did enjoy the army using a tank to take on the Dalek in a tank and the missiles hitting each other and that whole business. I enjoyed the visuals of that. But it would have been nice for them to have some sort of attack. Because, let's face it, this was a Dalek built by hand by a person using stuff in a garage. There was no Dalekanium involved. There was no special bonded polycarbide chemicals or anything like that. Yes, Daleks are geniuses, but they still have to work with what they've got to hand. Regenerating using pure electricity would have been more science fiction-y, but at least it would have been more elegant. I don't know. But then again, you did use time energy. Various points. I'm rambling so much. This is possibly a classic rant or ramble. Do I like the design? It's alright, it did its job. The number of bumps are wrong and it's going to do the heads in of all of those people who build Daleks themselves in their own sheds. Because their other halves will be able to look at their half-built Daleks and go, oh, it's finished, it looks better than the one on the telly already. The one on the telly had 3 knobbles on the side, what's going on? Now, I've also heard some people out there ramble and rant about the whole emotional, stumbling blocks of the episode. Yes, I can see the point of them existing because you've got the whole Ryan development thing. You've got the dad coming in storyline. You've got, hey kids, you don't know me at all, but look, I've got a microwave oven. We'll be using this later to kill a Dalek. Is it obvious enough? 5 minutes later. Oh, by the way, in case you've come into the episode late or you're hungover, you didn't notice, I'll just mention this microwave oven again. Okay? Does everyone seen that I've got a microwave oven? I'm pointing at it now. Pointing at the microwave oven. You've seen it? Lovely. Move on. Right. Now, you did feel from an initial watch that you were going, okay, Ryan, you've said your piece. Okay, bloke, you're his dad. You've said your piece. It's been filmed gorgeously. No cuts, no taking away. You've got a great performance going on. You've got some great moments of pure characterization. Now move along. There's a Dalek on the loose. We want to see some shooting on the quietest road in Britain. Have you seen a road in Sheffield that quiet, even on New Year? Oh yeah. Can I just say, another thing that my wife reacted badly to was the family who'd have to speak to each other because of, the internet being down. Oh, yes, all right, she was in a bad mood. But reacting, saying things like, God, you shouldn't be able to joke about stuff like that anymore, because it's just something she feels very strongly about. There's just no pleasing some people. That's what Jesus said. Moving on. So, I've rambled, I've said my piece, but you know what? The emotional moments were there to make you as an audience go, come on. It didn't destroy the pacing, it built up the tension, the background tension for the other secondary storyline. So will we see this company, this made-up place again, with all of the weapons in a box? Yes, we will. Did you half expect to see the security guard without a hand? Yes, in a Red Dwarfy kind of a way. So that's fine. Was it nice that the Daleks came back? Of course. GCHQ with one person on duty? Well, it is New Year's Day, I suppose so. Although I suspect that GCHQ in reality looks a lot more like a glorified call centre than something from a 1980s computer world. Right. I've said my piece, I've rambled and I've ranted. And you know what? It's 2019 and it's no more Doctor Who. Let that one sink in, eh? I'm sure we'll talk about more stuff. I've got a handful of Tom Baker stories from Big Finish. I've got Blake Sevens coming out of my ears. And of course there'll always be my writing as well. I've got a busy year ahead of me. So, until next time, when I'm sure we'll be talking about countermeasures or Doctor Who or Blake Seven or any of the 100,000 other things I ramble and rant about. Happy New Year, and be seeing you.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.